Hi, everyone, and welcome to today's webinar, where we're going to be exploring engaging our employees for greater engagement and productivity with our Healthy Minds, Thriving Workplaces webinar series. So welcome to those of you who are logging in live and to those who are watching this webinar on recording. We're so glad you could be here. My name is Miriam Henke. I'm going to be hosting today's webinar, and joining today I have two additional presenters. I have Dr. Simone Shaw, who's been part of the series throughout, and I've also got Sienna Simpson as well, who we're going to introduce very soon. So welcome along. Hopefully you've got your cuppa, your lunch handy, and you're ready to go for today's lunch and learn session. So over the course of today's webinar, we're going to be unpacking engagement a little bit to just understand more of what it is and why it's so important to work with your employees to improve their engagement and their productivity. Then we're going to have a look at the psychology of engagement. We're going to have an insight into some of the key theories and models that help us understand a bit more about what drives motivation, what helps people be engaged, and things that allow us to take some actionable tips away from that. From there, we're going to be exploring how to enhance your team, particularly some initiatives and policies that will help enhance engagement and productivity for win-win outcomes with your employees. And then, of course, as we always do, there'll be time for Q&A at the end. So do save your questions. There will be a couple of opportunities for interaction as we go along. So please get the most out of this. Put distractions aside and let's explore everything about engagement and productivity. So first, we want to introduce our co-presenter, Simone. So Simone, can you just tell the folks a bit about yourself?
Thanks, Miriam. Hi, everyone. I'm Dr. Simone Shaw. I'm a clinical psychologist and clinical neuropsychologist and have been fully registered for 16 years, but working as a psychologist for over 20 years. Early in my career, I started off as a rehabilitation coordinator for long-tail psychiatric claims or for dual diagnoses, and also worked as an EAP counsellor and workplace mediator. I then moved into conducting workers' compensation claim investigations for psychiatric injuries and did that for over a decade, and currently specialise in conducting medico-legal assessments, generally in relation to fitness for duty or for compensation or personal injury claims. And that could be either due to a psychiatric or a neurological condition. Currently, I'm providing executive coaching and providing workplace strategic advice, workplace training, which is my passion, and still doing IMEs. So I have a sound understanding of lots of different legislation, including industrial relations, workers' compensation, and common law. So thank you for joining us today. I'll now throw back to Miriam to let her introduce herself.
That's great. Thank you so much, Simone, and welcome to those who are just joining in now. About myself, I've been working long-term in personal and professional development as an executive coach and as a health psychologist in private practice. So I spend a fair bit of time assessing, diagnosing and treating clients for a range of presentations, psychological as well as physical health conditions that I support too. I do a lot of education, particularly in corporate workshops for mental health and well-being, increasing literacy, and also helping leaders improve their skills, particularly soft skills in the area of taking care of staff. I have particular interest in mind-body medicine and also in an area called photobiomodulation, also known as red light therapy. So I have some businesses in those areas as well. And I've got a history of doing a range of lecturing for the Australian Chiropractic College and University of Adelaide as well around psychology. So really glad to have you all here and joining us today as we go into exploring more about engagement and productivity. Together, Simone and I have Leading Wellness Solutions, where we support businesses with their mental health and well-being and helping to accelerate growth and development within this space. So we have a range of programs that we do invite you to explore and just to see how we may be able to partner with your organisation in the future to help your health workplace be as mentally healthy as possible. We're going to unpack engagement now, understanding a bit more about the what and why of why we're really here talking about this topic in the context of mental health and well-being. So I'd love to throw over to you guys for some interaction to get a bit of an idea as to what you think engagement is all about. So if you could just kindly throw some ideas into the chat for us, how would you define engagement? What do you think this concept is, or how it may be applied in the workplace? And just for some variety, you might also have some ideas about how will you know, or how do you know when your staff are engaged? So what do you think engagement is? How would you define it? And how would you know when staff are engaged? So I'll throw it over to you to see what your thoughts are. There's many ways that engagement can be defined, or even the way that you may observe people in their behaviors, or maybe feedback that you receive around engagement. So what do you think engagement is all about? Any brave souls? Ah, we've got one here. Speaking up and sharing ideas at work. Yeah, that's a great one. Absolutely. There are definitely ways in which when your staff are feeling comfortable and they're feeling like they have purpose in a workplace, they're more likely to speak up and share ideas. And we often refer to that as psychological safety. So that's a great one. Any other ideas in the space? Yeah, absolutely. Having fun and enjoying coming to work. That's a great one. Yes, if your staff seem to be enjoying themselves, that's got to be a good sign. And if they say that they enjoy coming to work and show that there is something about work that they enjoy, that's really valuable. So there's some great tips. Thanks so much for sharing those. I'm just curious, how do you measure productivity? Is there anyone in the group that has a way that they are currently measuring or keeping an eye on productivity in the workplace? And there's a range of metrics or measures that could be used in this space. So I'm just curious if anyone has got a way that they're measuring productivity at the moment. It could be used through a range of different surveys, or there could be certain KPIs. Yep, that's a great one. Exactly. Meeting KPIs is one measure of productivity, and annual performance reviews as well. Great one. Thank you so much for sharing that. Yeah, absolutely. So these are just some examples, and maybe as we go through, depending on how your workplace is running at the moment, you may have some ideas about how productivity and even engagement is being defined, how it's being observed, and how it's being measured. And that may also give you some ideas about where some gaps may be as well in the space. So thanks, everybody. What I'm going to do now is I'm going to hand over to Sienna Simpson, who's going to be facilitating this next section, and give her a chance to introduce herself. So Sienna, I'll give you the floor.
Good morning, everyone. As Miriam mentioned, my name is Sienna, and I'm excited to be here as I undertake my placement at Leading Wellness Solutions. So currently, I'm in my final year of a Bachelor of Behavioural Science degree with a strong passion for organisational psychology and sustainable change within businesses. When looking for placement, I found it to be quite a challenge as there weren't many opportunities in Southeast Queensland that provided the level of service that I was looking for. I was ecstatic when I came across Leading Wellness Solutions and just knew it was a long shot, but I had to put my hand up. So I inquired with Miriam and is so extremely grateful that she let me shadow her and Simone in this evolutionary business with their extensive knowledge. It's not every day that you get the opportunity to work with two amazing women with such extensive knowledge and experience. I firmly believe that investing in your people is crucial for organisational success. When we prioritise our people, everything else falls into place. At Leading Wellness Solutions, we focus on evidence-informed mental health, wellbeing, and leadership programs that empower individuals to take charge of their mental health and foster psychological safety in the workplace. LWS Leading Wellness Solutions approaches combines cutting-edge science with proven models, skills, and strategies, all designed to inspire transformational growth for both individuals and organisations. Together, we can create sustainable wellness solutions that lead to lasting positive impacts. So that was just a little bit about me, but now let's jump into the why and the research findings. So, did you know that more than 65% of employees don't feel engaged at work? Engaged employees are also 17% more productive and 21% more profitable than disengaged peers. Companies with a strong culture of engagement experience 25% lower turnover rates and higher levels of satisfaction, creativity, and innovation. Highly engaged employees can lead to a 22% increase in overall organisational performance. And Harvard Business School highlights that improved employee well-being can lead to an increase in productivity of up to 10%. Employees who feel supported in their mental and physical health are more effective at work, less likely to be absent, and show improved focus and creativity. So now let's look at the what. Engagement is the emotional commitment an employee has to their work, team, and organisation. Now, some characteristics might look like enthusiasm, commitment, and willingness to go the extra mile. Productivity is the effectiveness of employee efforts in generating desired results in a specific time period. Some characteristics for this might look like efficiency, quality output, and consistent delivery of high performance. Now, you might ask, why does this matter? Engaged employees are more productive, motivated, and contribute positively to company culture, driving overall business success. Now, let's look at for the impacts for the individual and the organisation. So engagement generally leads to higher job satisfaction, improved performance and innovation, lower absenteeism and turnover rates. And productivity generally leads to increases in output without adding more resources, enhance profitability and competitiveness, and improves team collaboration and quality of work. Now, let's look at the 4 pillars of success in high-performing teams. So highly productive teams generally have a common vision and clear actions, and they also have clear accountability for performance. Highly engaged teams look at leverage diversity and leading by example, and they support each other's work and life goals. Now, if you haven't looked at our webinar 4, I strongly encourage you to go back and look at that, where we unpack workload and stress management, and it dives into about these productive teams and engaged teams and how to deal with workload and stress management. Now, thank you.
Thanks so much, Sienna. That's awesome. Thanks for giving us those insights into why engagement and productivity is so important. We're now going to have a look at the psychology of engagement, where we're going to explore some of these theories that I said right at the beginning can be helpful for understanding more about this space and particular human motivation. So the first one is called self-determination theory. This is a really important one for a range of different ways that we work with people around motivation, and it certainly applies here in this setting as well. So the key idea behind this particular theory is that employees are more engaged and motivated when they experience the combination of a sense of autonomy, a mastery or competence of their skills, a sense of relatedness and purpose as well in their work. So autonomy is the freedom to make decisions. And what this does is it increases the intrinsic or the internally driven motivation that people have towards their work and greater ownership. When people feel that they have mastery or a sense of real competence over their work and what they're doing, that also involves opportunities for skill development. This allows them to feel more satisfied and engaged. Relatedness has to do with a sense of connection, a connection to others, and a sense of belonging that comes with that. And purpose, where the individual feels a strong sense of connection to the broader organization's goals, and this creates a sense of meaning as the contribution to that bigger goal. The second model that we feel is really relevant is something called flow theory. Flow theory has been really popular in positive psychology for a long time, and it was originally propositioned by the work of Mihaly Csikszentmihalyi. The book Flow is a great one if you're interested in this space. And what Csikszentmihalyi found in his research is that there is a particular state that we can get into, you may have experienced it yourself, where we get really deeply focused into something, where we're able to really engage some skill and interest in the space. And when that happens, we lose track of time and we're able to really perform. We often really have a sense of achievement as we're productive. The characteristics of flow, we find that when we've got really clear goals and more immediate feedback, meaning we're getting more real-time feedback about how we're performing and how we're going, that allows us to feel the confidence, decreases any anxiety that we have over whether we're doing adequate work, and allowing us to really boost our skills. The impact is when we're in a state of flow more often, well, actually there's a range of psychological and physical benefits that come from it. But from a workplace perspective, we know that when we have more flow, or our employees are able to get into flow, it leads to higher creativity, productivity, and employee satisfaction. So the model you see on the right-hand side here shows the balance between efficacy, being our ability to produce a desired or intended result, and how much arousal we have, how much pressure, how much engagement we have. And there's a sweet spot right in the middle there where we have a combination of giving our skills, increasing our skills, and having some challenge in the space as well. And so flow theory is a really great way of understanding that there's some ideal spots that we can aim for and help our employees work towards. The third model that is really relevant in this space is psychological safety. This is getting so much attention at the moment. We want everyone to really understand and have an appreciation and respect for the importance of psychological safety. So this is the climate where employees feel safe. They feel safe to take risks, to make mistakes, to let people know about mistakes, and express ideas without sort of any fear of negative consequences. So when we have psychological safety, it fosters collaboration, it builds a sense of learning and a growth mindset, and builds higher engagement. So in this space, yep, it's pretty high level and broad, but the tip is to promote more open communication and for every level of the organization to show respect and have good communication around diverse perspectives so that trust is built in the space. If this is of interest, we do recommend going back to webinar one in our series, which you can find on our website, to understand more about psychosocial hazards, where we mention more about psychological safety. And the third model that's relevant in this space is actually about job burnout. Job burnout is a real serious concern at the moment. There are increasing cases of burnout happening, and more people are concerned about burnout or living with burnout, or are very mindful of the impacts on the individual and the organization from burnout. So burnout is defined as a psychological syndrome resulting from chronic workplace stress, characterized by emotional exhaustion, depersonalization, so not feeling normal self, not feeling important or valued, and reduced personal accomplishment. So when this happens, we know that there's already serious psychosocial hazards that are affecting the person. So we really recommend prevention over cure as much as possible. So to help people be more engaged and to prevent risk of burnout occurring, we want to make sure manageable workloads are prioritized, and certainly a two-way feedback process so that people feel safe to push back if their workload is exceeding their capacity. Being able to provide adequate support and resources to people so they can do their job effectively, and to promote work-life balance to sustain long-term engagement. Work-life balance, flexible working arrangements, etc. All those things help to give a sense of loyalty to an organization. So again, if you were interested in this space, go back to webinar 4 and check out more about workload and stress management. That gives some great tips in this space too. So overall, when you think about what drives engagement employees and you look at the research and you understand where the thought leaders are focused, there's actually 7 main areas. One has to do with strategy. What is the vision and direction of the organization? How is that being communicated? Is that communicated regularly in a way that employees can engage with and be inspired by? The second is autonomy. We talked about that with self-determination theory. How we allow and empower our employees to be self-motivated, giving them autonomy to do their work their way as much as possible, but with accountability and with feedback. The peer relationships in the workplace, this is really important. How connected people feel to others. How do we foster a greater sense of belonging and community? This is especially challenging when we've got remote work situations, or we have people who are working in siloed or in isolated workspaces, particularly challenging, but not unworkable. So how do we build that connection and sense of community? That's really influential on job satisfaction, productivity, engagement, and output. What support comes from management? Of course, leadership support is very important, especially all levels of management, where there is greater emotional intelligence being used particularly. So we want to see empathy. We want to see varying forms of emotional intelligence, where individual leaders are very self-aware and managing and regulating themselves, as well as having awareness of others and being able to regulate, motivate, and inspire others, and be able to build good relationships with two-way communication and feedback. Then we also know that accomplishment is important, where people feel like they are achieving, they're meeting goals, even if they're small wins. All of these matter. It's great for our mood, it's great for our mental health, and it also drives greater engagement. getting recognised. Very important, recognising your employees for what they do, making sure there is regular, fair and even distribution of recognition, and making sure that that is something that is done with enthusiasm and a positive energy, and it really does make a difference, as well as some meaning to the work that people do too. Having a chat with your employees about what they feel their contributions are, what matters to them, and what they feel motivated by in the workplace in terms of a sense of passion or purpose, the challenges that they may enjoy tackling, and other forms of respect that they receive in the workplace too. So having meaning in the work is an engagement driver. Right, now I'm going to hand over to Simone to talk about enhancing your team and some strategies to help in this space. So thanks, Simone.
Thank you, Miriam. And also thanks to Sienna for providing the backdrop in terms of the what and why behind the importance of enhancing engagement and productivity within your team. And then to Miriam as well for giving some of those, providing an overview of the psychological theories and models that sit behind that. So now let's move into some practical tips and actionable tools. Just bear with me as I move on. Okay, so to begin with, just want to provide an overview of understanding employee engagement and organisational trust and the interplay between these. So in order to drive greater engagement and productivity with your own team, it's very important to ensure that your initiatives and policies are focused on, number one, improving employee well-being, but also enhancing your work environment, so the physical environment that your employee are working within, and fundamentally also the importance of fostering a culture of trust and recognition. We've spoken in multiple webinars about psychological safety, and that is the underpinning ability for organisations to thrive so that staff feel that they can speak up and without fear of retribution, etc. So in this space, we highly encourage leaders adopt a transformational leadership style. And this greatly helps for them to walk the walk, talk the talk, and to be the role model in this space so that employees can then feel safe to engage in similar behaviours. So in a nutshell, transformational leadership is a leadership style that inspires, motivates, and allows the staff members to have a sense of a fantastic role model, and that these leaders are exceeding expectations by fostering a vision of change, innovation, and having their own personal leadership or personal development at the forefront of their mind. Now, we would highly recommend attending our leadership development workshops if any members of your team are needing to upskill in this area in relation to transformational and authentic leadership. So what we're going to do now is we're going to look at 10 specific workplace initiatives and associated policies that will enhance engagement, improve productivity, and build organisational trust and support psychological wellbeing. And as you would have seen if you've attended some of our previous webinars, everything dovetails together, whether they are policies or procedures, whether it is a strategy, everything dovetails beautifully together. So we're going to go through 10 evidence-based strategies that drive greater engagement and productivity in the workforce whilst fostering psychological wellbeing. Seems too good to be true, but it's not. We've spoken before about the importance of flexible working arrangements. So one great thing that came on the back of COVID was the ability for people to engage more in this space. Historically, we had organisations that were predominantly office-based or outdoor-based or whatever that might look like with your particular industry that you're working within. And now we've got these beautiful hybrid models. So by allowing your staff to have flexible work schedules, so whether that's working remotely, working from home, whether it's letting them choose the hours that they want to work, an earlier start time, an earlier finish time, perhaps to get to an activity after work that's important to them, maybe taking themselves to the gym, attending a yoga class, or whether it's taking their children to sport or whatever it might be. We know that when we allow these opportunities for staff, they feel good about working for you. It enhances their job satisfaction. It reduces the possibility of getting burnout because they feel connected to the organisation. They feel that you care about them more than their work output, that you care about them as a whole person. And then in turn, that increases their productivity as a byproduct. So we'd highly recommend, if you don't already have them, to implement options for flexible work hours if your staff are able to work from home where that's possible with the industry you work in. And also some organisations are able to offer condensed work weeks. So offering a 9-day fortnight rather than working every day of the working week. So that allows staff members to have an additional day to do life admin or to do things that they want to do in that time. It's really important, if you are going to invest in FWAs, that there's really clear expectations for that remote working, for example, that the staff can have autonomy in terms of what that looks like and what tasks they're working on, but there is accountability and a feedback loop. It's very important to ensure that everyone's on the same page in that space. The next initiative that we'll unpack, it looks at professional development and learning opportunities. So this should be an ongoing piece of work. Generally, when we're onboarding someone within an organisation, we already know what their skills, training and qualifications look like, but are we having an ongoing conversation with them throughout the tenure of their time with you as an employee? We know that employees who feel they are growing and learning new skills, remember that flow state, being challenged, they're more engaged and more motivated. And that there's a sweet spot with that. We don't want too much challenge too soon. So it needs to be within their skill set, but stretch goals are so fantastic in this space. And the research suggests that professional development leads to higher retention rates and improved job performance. Again, by investing in your staff, they will feel that as an employer, that you've invested interest in them as a human being, not just as a sense of output or KPIs within the organisation. So we would highly recommend that you offer ongoing training opportunities and through all levels of your organisation, not only for your top tier or your ELT, but for also those who are on the front line, for them to also have the opportunity for ongoing training opportunities. We'd also highly encourage mentorship programs or other opportunities for career developments, whether that's attending workshops, conferences, or taking relevant courses. And whether that is funded by the organisation or self-funded by the employee, it doesn't really matter. It's just about providing the opportunity for your staff to engage in additional professional development and learning opportunities. The third initiative and policy that we're going to talk to next is employee recognition programs. Now, Miriam did mention this before, the importance of reward and recognition where credit is due. And so the research shows us that when we regularly recognise employees' efforts, that fosters a sense of appreciation and gratitude, and that helps to improve morale and motivation. And this should be done on a team level, not just on an individual level. Thank you for doing, that piece of work. You can see the great efforts that you put into that, but actually having that recognition on a team level so that everyone can celebrate that win. Often when people are working on a particular project, there are other team members in other departments or in other teams that contribute to that project or that outcome as well. And when we do this, we know that that's directly linked to higher engagement and lower turnover rates. Staff feel valued, and by expressing that gratitude to them, we have these wonderful outcomes. So we'd recommend that you have formal recognition systems that rewards employees for their achievements. And this could include peer-to-peer recognition, those performance-based bonuses, or celebrating milestones and contributions, as I mentioned. We're now going to turn to talk to supportive leadership and clear communication. Now, we know that supportive leadership is the #1 predictor of job satisfaction and in turn leads to increased productivity and engagement with our employees. And sitting behind that is clear and transparent communication. So when leaders are able to communicate effectively, that in turn creates a positive work culture. And research has shown that employees who feel supported by their managers are more engaged and productive. So in terms of policy, what we would recommend, if you haven't already done so, is ensuring that all of your leadership, whether they're frontline leaders or whether they're sitting in an ELT perspective, are able to communicate effectively. That your leaders have high emotional intelligence and are able to coach their own staff in their space as well. And if you have some team members or some leaders that perhaps may not have these skills, then they can be learned. And that's the beauty of this. So we all have different strengths and weaknesses. And so if your organisation requires any additional support in this space, please reach out to us because we're happy to help. This is our absolute passion as well. We'd also highly encourage all leaders to have regular feedback sessions with their staff. So we don't want to wait for that annual performance review once a year to give feedback to staff, whether it's about their performance or whether it's about their engagement or whether it's about professional development opportunities. There needs to be an ongoing feedback loop. There should be no surprises as a leader in terms of where your staff are at, because you're constantly checking in with them. Number one, you know your staff, and then number two, you're checking in with them regularly. And we'd also highly encourage having an open door policy for staff to come to you. Remember before we spoke about psychological safety, so ensuring that staff feel that they can come to you to share their ideas and concerns, and to also put wonderful innovative ideas on the table as well. We also highly encourage and promote organisations to have mental health and wellbeing programs. So most states in Australia now have a psychosocial hazard guide. And so we know that psychological safety is now being looked at as seriously as physical workplace safety, which is not surprising to us, but it's great that that legislation has caught up. We know that employee wellbeing is closely tied to productivity. So studies show that mental health initiatives, whether it's EAP programs, whether it's mindfulness or stress management workshops, or other initiatives that you have within your organisations, lead to improved focus, lower absenteeism, and higher performance. So we highly recommend that you have mental health resources such as EAP and other wellness workshops as well, and utilising your EAP in this space as well. Often they've got add-on programs or support that you can access that you may not be aware of. And fundamentally sitting underneath that then is also promoting a culture where seeking support for mental health is normalised and encouraged. You want your organisation to have a high uptake of EAP. That means that staff are happy to reach out for help and that they are getting the help that they need, and also the importance of early intervention. Why wait until something they're approaching burnout, for example, whereas nipping something in the bud nice and early can prevent that from occurring. So a recommended resource is webinar 3, where we looked at implementing mental health initiatives and unpack that in further detail. So if you want some more tips and tricks, then feel free to watch that recording if you haven't seen it. The next thing that we'd like to spend some time talking about is the importance of autonomy and empowerment. So when employees have a sense of autonomy in the way they approach their work, we know that that leads to a sense of greater job satisfaction and productivity, even if it's as simple as what tasks to do first. They may not have full autonomy over the tasks that they do, but just how they're approaching their work could be one simple thing to improve that level of job satisfaction and then in turn productivity. So when staff have control over their work, it increases that engagement. It also increases their ability to be innovative in the work environment. So we'd highly recommend to encourage autonomy by allowing your staff to make decisions within their roles and provide them opportunities for them to contribute to larger projects and other initiatives as well. We also know the research shows us very clearly the importance of having a diverse and inclusive work environment. When we have employees from different backgrounds, it helps to increase creativity, collaboration, and problem solving. The converse, if we have everyone from similar backgrounds, then we can run into the problem of groupthink, where everyone thinks the same and it really stifles creativity and innovation. And so we know when we have diversity within the workplace, it leads to higher employee satisfaction and retention rates. So highly recommend that you have some type of diversity and inclusion policy within your workplace to ensure that there's equitable hiring, promotion, and workplace practices, and to also offer training to address any unconscious biases that might sit there in the background to help to promote a culture of respect and to ensure that all perspectives are taken into consideration. Our last webinar focused predominantly on work-life balance initiatives. We know that employees who have a healthy work-life balance report higher engagement levels and lower stress. And when employers support their employees to engage in activities outside of the workplace to have that balance, they see reduced absenteeism and improved productivity. So we highly recommend that you consider how your workplace can be an employer of choice, how you can try to integrate some of the work-life balance segues within your organisation, and also thinking about setting realistic workloads, limiting after-hours work expectations, and also promoting the use of vacation time. It's so very, very important for staff to do that. And go back and have a look at our previous webinar if you wanted some more ideas in this space. There's also a lot of research looking at team building and social interaction opportunities. So we know the workplace provides a sense of social connection, social cohesion for a lot of people. Sometimes work is the only thing that's going well for them. They may have moved interstate or overseas. They may not have anyone at home and live alone. And so work is that sense of social connection for them. And so when those relationships are positive, that in turn leads to higher engagement and job satisfaction. So those social bonds are so very, very important. So we would recommend regular team building activities. These don't have to cost much money. They can be free initiatives. Whether you have budgets to also have social events, again, they could be funded by the employees themselves or the organisation. And also think outside the box. Maybe there's opportunities for cross-departmental projects to foster relationships among employees. And when a new starter begins, what does that look like in terms of their induction and onboarding process so that they feel part of your team? And finally, I just want to highlight the importance of having a healthy work environment. And so we know that when environments are designed well, it can help to improve mood, reduce stress, and to boost productivity. So if you are an office-based industry, then looking at ergonomic workstations, ensuring there's natural light, ensuring there might be some green spaces or rest spaces for your employees, because that in turn will lead to a better performance. And other important things are just ensuring that the environment isn't too noisy, and just think about what that might be if you were working in that environment. And if we've got those outdoor industries or outdoor workplaces, and then just thinking what additional things might you want to consider in that space. So what we want to do now is just quickly highlight for you some implementation considerations, things for you to think about in terms of implementing some of these policies and procedures. They need to be customised. So tailor these to meet your specific needs and culture of your workplace. Are you mature in this space, or are you just at the beginning levels in terms of implementing some of these policies? Number one, you need leadership buy-in and investment. So this needs to start at the top in terms of leadership actively promoting and participating in these programs to walk the walk and talk the talk. And we also recommend that you gather some feedback. So is the initiative working? Did that policy, was that helpful for employees? And did it lead to improved productivity and engagement within the workplace? Make any adjustments if you need to along the way. So I'm just going to throw back to Miriam now just to talk about our final webinar in this series. I can't believe we're this far in the journey so far, and then moving into our Q&A. Thank you.
Absolutely. That's exactly right, Simone. It is amazing that we're already through 5 webinars and just one left in our series. So we do encourage and invite everyone to join us for Mentally Healthy Workplaces webinar. We're going to look at how do we sustain mental health initiatives? How do we make sure that the efforts and investments that we put into our initiatives produce fruit over time, and how do we make sure that our employees continue to thrive in a sustainable way? So join us on November 13th for that webinar. We would love, of course, for you guys to get in touch and reach out to us if there's anything that we can do to assist your organisation. Even if you've just got a simple question to ask, we're happy to help. We would love some feedback. So if you're happy to grab your phone and just grab this QR code, it will lead you to our short survey that just gives a bit of an opportunity to share back from the information you've received today and the way that we've delivered it. We would love to get some insights from you. We really, really appreciate it. So thank you for taking the time to do that. And now we've got time for some questions. The feedback QR code is here on this slide too, just in case you didn't catch it on the last one. So we do welcome and invite you to share any questions that you may have. You may pop that into the chat, or if you would like to, feel welcome to unmute yourself and ask your question. We're here and happy to help. So what questions do you have? And it could go all sorts of different directions. You may be interested in how some of these particular policies may be adapted for your particular work situation, or you may have some curiosities about where certain funding may be allocated best. We're happy to give you some advice. And if there aren't any questions, that's totally fine as well. We hope that this has been satisfying, giving you some good insights. And you may need some time to think about your questions too, in which case, please do reach out to us at admin@leadingwellnesssolutions.com.au. Otherwise, thank you so much all for joining us. It's been a real pleasure to have you with us today, exploring all things about engagement and productivity. Thank you so much to Simone and Sienna for your contributions to today's webinar. To those of you who joined us today and those who have been watching the recording, we're so glad you could join us. So thanks so much, and we hope to see you again.
Thanks, everyone. Have a wonderful
everybody.
afternoon.
Thanks, everyone.